The world is gripped by a terrifying epidemic. Those who fall asleep die, and only the most resilient survive.
Do not fall asleep. Do not fall asleep.
A guy named Jake, addicted to drugs, wakes up in his apartment wanting to get high but can't find his lighter. He goes outside and is stunned to find complete silence and no people or animals around. Soon, Jake starts discovering lifeless bodies of passers-by. Distressed, he visits his friends and loved ones but finds no one alive. Suddenly, an emergency broadcast comes on TV. The announcer declares a state of emergency and urges any remaining survivors not to fall asleep. As Jake steps outside, he tries to convince himself that it's just a hallucination from his drug use.
Wake up, Jake. Wake up.
But then he is unexpectedly called out by a 13-year-old boy named Sam, who insists it's not a dream. If Jake were to fall asleep, he wouldn't wake up, just like everyone else. 4 days into the mysterious apocalypse, Jake, Sam, Rachel, and Rachel's friend are swimming in a pool and doing everything they can to stay awake, taking stimulants and energy drinks. Later, Jake and Sam speculate about the origin of the strange virus. Sam suggests various theories, including a radioactive space probe that altered the planet's atmosphere.
Look, who gives a shit what this is? It just is.
Their conversation is abruptly interrupted by Rachel's screams from another room. She says that she left her friend alone for just a minute, and she fell asleep. Jake and Sam give her an adrenaline shot, but it doesn't help. Rachel is devastated by her friend's death and fears that it will soon happen to her too, as even strong medications no longer work. As Jake and Sam say their goodbyes to Rachel, she leaves with their shared backpack containing essential staying awake drugs. The guys chase after Rachel, but soon Jake starts to fall asleep. Sam takes the wheel, trying to manage the car and keep Jake awake. In a desperate move, Sam sticks a screwdriver into Jake's leg, jolting him awake from the pain. Jake starts experiencing hallucinations where he sees his deceased sister instead of Sam. Then he spots a plane in the sky, which turns out to be real, and they unexpectedly collide with it on the road. After the crash, Jake and Sam get out of the car and meet the pilot, Ellis. They ask for something to keep them awake, and he offers them nicotine gum and patches. Ellis notes that this won't be enough. He also mentions that Sam is the first child he has seen in 3 days across 8 cities, although there are still plenty of survivors overall. Ellis leaves his damaged plane, and the three of them head to the nearest hospital, hoping to find some medication.
I think he's an addict.
Look, I'm pretty sure we're all addicts now.
At the hospital, they are surprised to find a group of survivors. They meet Dr. Ally, who starts them on an IV drip with a cocktail of adrenaline and other substances. She explains that she's one of the doctors who managed to stay awake during the sleep epidemic and, along with her colleagues, has been trying to figure out what happened but hasn't made much progress yet. Meanwhile, Ellis reviews hospital patient records. No one understands why, and Ellis explains that the first victims on his plane died exactly at 3:04. In other cities he traveled through, people died a few minutes earlier or later. He's here to determine when exactly people started dying. It turns out that in this city, it all began at 3:01, suggesting a nearby source of the initial impulse. Ellis decides to head west to investigate further, and Ally and her assistant Sarah join him. Sam also wants to go, but Jake disagrees. He believes it's safer to stay put and that things should get easier in a couple of days.
Just a couple more days, like sharks, remember? Our bodies will sort out the rest.
In a few days, your body is going to die.
Ally says that a person can survive about 10 days without sleep, and Jake decides to join the others in search of answers. After a few hours on the road, the survivors are struggling to stay awake. Sarah offers Jake and Sam some chili peppers, and after a single bite, they forget about sleep. Soon, they arrive at another hospital to check the time when the epidemic started there but see a large plume of smoke from a distance. As they get closer, they realize that no documents remain and decide to move on. Suddenly, Jake remembers that in this deserted town, the coroner's office is located not in the hospital but next to the police station. Everyone is surprised by this information, and Jake explains that he was there to identify a friend. The group arrives at the location and finds that dozens of survivors have turned the police station into a rave party.
Oh, what better place to throw a party when the world ends?
Ellis and the others make their way through the crowded hall to the coroner's office, but they are stopped by a strange man who doesn't want to let them pass and suggests they join the party. Ellis threatens him, and he quickly backs off. They begin searching for documents, and Sarah asks Ally if she can go dance. Initially, Ally refuses, thinking it might be dangerous, but Jake volunteers to keep an eye on her. Sarah and Jake head to the party, but soon Sarah is left alone. Following a hallucination of his younger sister Maggie, Jake ends up in a storage room. There, he meets a girl looking for more drugs among the confiscated substances. She offers him something to try and then sprays an unknown substance in his face. Afterward, Jake is haunted by the ghost of Maggie, forcing him to relive his difficult family relationships. Disoriented, Jake tries to leave the room, but the visions persist. Meanwhile, the rest of the group examines the office and morgue. They find nothing in the documents and decide to hack into the coroner's laptop. Ellis and Ally discover that the first victims died at 3:02 and realize they've missed the origin point and need to head north or south. Ally suddenly has an idea. They can use the 2 known points with the earliest times to calculate a reverse azimuth and pinpoint the destination, Dallas. They soon find Jake, who is disoriented from the drugs, and then see that Sarah has fallen asleep at a table. Ally blames Jake for Sarah's death since he promised to keep an eye on her, and Ellis suggests continuing without Jake, as he can't be trusted. However, Sam defends Jake, stating that he won't go anywhere without him. Ally and Ellis relent, and the team heads for Dallas. On the way, they unexpectedly catch a radio signal stating that they should go to Austin for medication. Ally recognizes the voice of her girlfriend and colleague Lex, who left on the 3rd day of the epidemic, and realizes they need to go there instead of Dallas. But Ellis refuses to change the route. Ally decides to go to Austin alone, but Jake and Sam volunteer to join her, confident that Ellis can manage without them. Before they part ways, Ellis gives them a signal beacon that will track him from 100 miles away if something goes wrong in Austin. Meanwhile, we meet Dave, an office worker who lost his beloved dog at the start of the epidemic. On the 2nd day, he realized that the only way to stay awake was to inflict intense pain on himself and others. He drives nails into his hand and then attacks the few people left on the streets. On their way to Austin, Sam and Jake keep talking to stay awake. Suddenly, a body falls from a bridge onto their car, causing them to crash into a tree. Ally suffers a concussion, and the friends do everything they can to keep her conscious. They retrieve their belongings from the wrecked car and start walking, hoping to find a new vehicle. Initially, they think someone might have committed suicide in a bizarre way, but Sam insists he saw someone on the bridge, meaning the body was thrown. They soon find themselves in a deserted town, and Ally decides to rest for a bit. She starts to feel ill, but she's helped in time by Father Julio and the children from his parish. They are holding unusual ceremonies to honor their lost friends and distract the children from the situation, with a drink of awful taste helping them stay awake. Julio invites the trio to stay with them as long as they need and introduces Sam to a girl named Carmen. Carmen shows him around and takes him to Eduardo, who, miraculously, still has a living dog. Suddenly, the dog senses danger, and the children return to the celebration. On their way back, Carmen is attacked by the deranged Dave with a knife. Sam begins to beat Dave with a plastic chair, and the girl's screams attract the locals, who start shooting at Dave, who is known as Incubus. Carmen is brought to the church, and Ally tries to save her life by stitching up an artery. Jake sets out to find Incubus, but meanwhile, Dave attacks another child. Suddenly, the lights go out in the church. Julio heads to the storage room to start the generator but encounters Dave there. Fortunately, Julio manages to injure the madman, but Dave still has enough strength to reach Ally, Sam, and Carmen. Ally is determined to protect the children at any cost, but then Jake arrives and begins to violently beat Dave with a crowbar. Ally manages to save Carmen, and soon the trio is ready to continue their journey. Father Julio gives them his uncle's car and supplies them with provisions and weapons. Ally offers for him to join them on their trip to Austin, and Julio cautiously asks if they're going after that strange monotonous radio recording. He mentions that the voices in it change, but the text remains the same. Moreover, he sent some people there for reconnaissance a few days ago, but they never returned. However, this does not alter the trio's plans. Jake goes to fetch Sam, who doesn't want to leave Carmen behind, and promises they'll return. They then set off on their journey. Meanwhile, Ellis continues his drive to Dallas, struggling to stay awake. By evening, he finally reaches his destination and sees the shining metropolis before him. The action picks up on the 96th day. A man named Bill Beavers, who suffers from a rare condition that prevents him from sleeping, remains the last person in the enormous city, and possibly on Earth. We flash back to the evening of the 5th day of the sleeping epidemic. In Dallas, Bill and his girlfriend Nicole stop to fill up their car. They spot a man nearby, but before they can talk to him, someone shoots him in the head. Bill and Nicole hide behind cars in terror as the shooting continues. Using the rearview mirror, they determine that the shooter is on the 6th floor of the nearest building. Suddenly, the streetlights go out, and they notice someone signaling them with a flashlight. Dodging bullets, Bill and Nicole make their way to the source of the light and find themselves in an apartment, where they meet Ellis and a few others. A woman named Beth offers to give them an adrenaline shot, but Bill refuses. Beth gives herself the shot instead and introduces her husband Colin and brothers John and Jeffrey, who had turned off the streetlights to help them. Ellis explains that they had only joined up with the others half an hour ago and are now hiding from the shooter together. Ellis believes the shooter is guarding the city from people searching for a cure and seeking the truth about the epidemic's origins. However, Nicole says they aren't looking for anything, as none of their friends who dreamed of a cure are alive. That's why they came to Dallas's most famous bakery to enjoy the best desserts one last time. The group is surprised by their plan, but Ellis points out that first, they need to deal with a shooter, otherwise, they won't be able to save the world or have their pastries. Realizing that the shooter is close by, Ellis decides to confront them. The group sneaks into the building and surrounds the mysterious shooter, threatening them with weapons. It turns out the shooter is a girl named Meredith, who claims she means them no harm.
I wasn't shooting at you. I was shooting at what I thought you were.
Meredith explains she is eliminating people who have lost their minds due to the epidemic and are harming themselves and others. Meanwhile, Ally, Jake, and Sam arrive in Austin. They approach a hospital where Lex should be, but see guards shooting at a car. The group realizes they might be on a wild goose chase and that there might not be a cure here, but decides to investigate further. Stripping down to their underwear to appear non-threatening, they approach the guards and ask if they know Lex. The guards, confused, say she's been with them for several days and let them in.
Weirdos.
In Dallas, Ellis continues to question Meredith at gunpoint, but she insists she knows nothing about the epidemic and is only ridding the world of the insane. Soon, the group discovers she's local and serves as a sniper in the Marines. The group is distracted, and Meredith takes Colin hostage. She threatens to shoot everyone unless they believe her and agree to cooperate. Ellis has no choice but to accept her offer. In Austin, Ally finally meets Lex, her former partner before the epidemic. Lex is thrilled that Ally received her message and reveals that, while they haven't found a cure, they have found something that allows people to sleep for a while. In Dallas, the group shares their stories. Jeffrey reveals he was a gamer and that he and his friends were playing late into the night when it all began. On the second day, they noticed a mysterious raven that miraculously survived. They decided to follow it, leading Jeffrey here. Beth admits that before the epidemic, she and Colin received a call from a stranger in Dallas who warned them not to sleep. Bill finds the stranger's number in the directory, and it turns out the call came from a nearby nursing home. Arriving at the nursing home, they find several bodies and review the surveillance footage. It turns out the message about the epidemic started broadcasting exactly at 3 o'clock, the exact moment it began. The team realizes the TV station workers are somehow involved and decides to go there to uncover the truth. Suddenly, Nicole begins to fall asleep, and Bill says they want to spend their remaining time differently. They prepare to leave, but Meredith immediately stops them, threatening them with a weapon. She demands to know how Bill stays awake without taking any medication, and he reveals his condition that prevents him from sleeping.
So basically what you're saying is you're the fucking superhero of the sleep apocalypse?
Ellis asks Meredith to let Bill and Nicole go, and they head to an abandoned cafe and a deserted movie theater for their date. Nicole thanks Bill for their last evening together and falls asleep on his shoulder. Meanwhile, in the Austin hospital, Lex administers an experimental drug to Sam that will allow him to sleep for about 10 minutes and stay alive. However, during this time, Sam falls into a realistic dream where he interacts with his father, who falls asleep right at the onset of the epidemic. Jake and Ally notice that Sam is unwell, but Lex assures them that the terrifying dreams are just a side effect. However, if he's not woken up in time, he will sleep forever. The new drug is still far from a full cure, and prolonged sleep continues to be fatal. Lex suggests administering the serum to Jake and Ally as well, and they too fall into a brief, troubled sleep. In Jake's nightmare, he encounters Sarah, who doesn't realize she's dead, and he's transported to the morgue where he sees his sister and the mysterious girl from the police station. Ally dreams that her friends never woke up, and Lex shoots herself in the head. In Dallas, Ellis's team reaches the TV station. There, they find reporter Alonso Alvarez, who initially threatens them if they don't leave. However, Meredith takes over, aiming her gun at Alvarez. Alvarez insists he's just an ordinary anchor with no connection to the mysterious signal. He only wants to keep the channel running as long as possible to update surviving viewers with the most important news. Ellis argues that they need to shut down the station because it might be the source of the signal. Alvarez resists, but Ellis forces him to help. John, Jeffrey, and Colin head to the generator room to shut down the generators. Meanwhile, Alvarez tells the others that he heard on the radio about a safe sleep zone. There are many rumors about it, but no one knows its exact location. Then, Alvarez lures Ellis, Meredith, and Beth into the studio, where he activates a security lock that cannot be removed because the generators are down. Soon, Colin, who is still free, tries to attack Alvarez, but Alvarez inflicts a fatal wound on him. In Austin, Lex introduces Ally, Jake, and Sam to Dr. Abrams. It turns out Abrams's experimental drug can extend life by a few days with each dose, as the brain clears neurotoxins during sleep. Abrams shows Ally numerous x-rays of people who have tested the drug, and she notices that many of them have gunshot wounds to the head. Abrams then calls Lex and says that the next stage of the drug's development requires new test subjects. He is particularly interested in Sam, and Lex promises to persuade him. Abrams also instructs his guards to find volunteers in the city and bring them to the hospital. The guards notice that people are reluctant to participate and have to shoot them, but the doctor is unconcerned. Meanwhile, at the TV station, John and Jeffrey manage to restore power, deactivating the door locks. Realizing his end is near, Alvarez prepares to give one last broadcast, but Beth shoots him in the head live on air. John and Jeffrey then shut down the entire station. However, to confirm that their plan worked, someone from their team needs to fall asleep. At night, Beth suggests they capture someone from Meredith's victims and make them sleep. Meredith thinks it's too difficult, but Jeffrey volunteers to go under. Ellis tries to talk him out of it, but Jeffrey is firm in his decision. The others watch as Jeffrey falls asleep, but within moments, they see that he has died. Ellis administers adrenaline, but it's too late. The disappointed team debates what to do next, and Beth declares that she's tired of fighting and wants to sleep. In Austin, Jake tells Ally that he and Sam plan to return to the church and bring the sleep vaccine to Carmen and the others. Ally decides to stay with Lex and wait for a real cure. Meanwhile, Lex conducts various tests on Sam and then sends him for procedures with Dr. Abrams. Abrams assures Sam that his contribution will advance their research, and Sam agrees to become a test subject. Soon, Jake notices that Sam has been missing for a while and goes looking for him. He unexpectedly finds a supply room filled with items from Julio's community. Ellis continues to ponder the source of the signal. John suggests that just destroying the station won't be enough, as the signal now roams through satellites. He proposes going to NASA's Space Center to shut down part of the satellite system. Ellis shares their plan with Meredith and Beth, but now Meredith also wants to sleep. She tells Beth about a better local hotel, and they head there to end their lives gracefully. Ellis begins to feel worse and seems to be giving up as well. Ally takes another look at the X-rays and notices that all of them are of children. She cautiously asks Lex how they found so many children and where they are now. At that moment, Jake walks in and shows a carnival mask from one of the children, who are just being rounded up off the streets. Ally accuses Lex of conducting experiments on children, but Lex insists that without them, they wouldn't have made any progress.
What the hell have you been doing, Lex?
We've been doing what needs to be done.
Dr. Abrams is about to inject Sam with a new vaccine, but Jake and Ally stop him. Threatening Abrams with a fire extinguisher, Jake demands that Sam be freed and reveals the truth about the fate of the test subjects. Suddenly, an armed man bursts into the hospital. His son did not survive the experiment. Chaos ensues, and the man soon finds Dr. Abrams. He aims his weapon at Abrams, but Abrams convinces him to abandon his revenge and help develop the vaccine for his son. The man lowers his weapon, but at that moment, Abrams injects him with the very vaccine he intended for Sam. It fails to work, and the man dies.
Well, that's unfortunate.
Ally, Jake, and Sam manage to escape the hospital, but they are stopped by Lex. She insists that the experiments are necessary and demands they stay, threatening them with a gun. However, Jake aims back at her, and the trio finally manages to escape. In the chaos, Sam grabs a bag of vaccines and wants to head to Carmen and the others, but Ally insists they will deliver them to Julio on the way. Now, they must get to Dallas, and Ally hopes that Ellis has found something. Meanwhile, Ellis and his team arrive at the hotel. Desperate, Ellis records a message for Jake, Ally, and Sam on the cockpit recorder. He admits that his mind is starting to fail and says that he and his 3 companions have decided to end it all. Soon, the trio approaching Dallas picks up a signal with their tracker and realizes that Ellis is nearby. The next morning, Meredith unexpectedly wakes up next to the lifeless bodies of Beth and John but doesn't notice that Ellis has changed his mind about giving up and has left to search for the safe sleep zone. She contacts her mysterious associates, apparently involved in the apocalypse, and tells them she'll be back soon. Suddenly, Meredith spots the same Raven that led Jeffrey to Dallas. She says it's time to go home, grabs her weapon, and leaves. What do you think could have caused the sleep epidemic? And what would you do if you were in the character's shoes to uncover the truth? Share your thoughts in the comments down below, give a thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next videos.